Hi, I'm Simon Isaacs, and this is our Anything in Print podcast.
When thinking about recording the podcast today for Anything in Print, it would have been amiss if we didn't consider somebody like Paragon, a massive organisation that everybody knows about them in the industry. They've got to be considered champions of print. People would want to hear about what their success story is. How are they looking after their customers? How are they engaging all their employees? How do they look at how they operate across all their different sites? And I was really pleased when Sue accepted this as an inspirational leader who's been with the business a huge amount of time and would have a lot of stories to tell about their success. Hi, welcome again to the Ricoh Anything in Print podcast series. Last episode, we interviewed two lovely ladies from Communisys, Cara and Christina. This week, I have the pleasure of being joined by Sue Evren from Paragon Communications. My name is Sam Precious. I'm the Strategy and Services Development Manager for Ricoh, and I have been working with Sue for a number of years now at Paragon. Sue is the site director for the Tewkesbury and Bristol sites, and I believe, Sue, you've been there for a number of years. So, Sue, do you want to introduce yourself today? You've been at Paragon for a while. Do you want to talk us through that a little bit?
Yeah, hi Sam. Yeah, my name is Susan Evren. I've worked at Paragon for over 25 years. People ask me, why have you stayed in Paragon for that length of time? And my response to that is that Paragon for me has been that we've always been growing and we've always been investing in the latest technology. From when I started 25 years ago, the site is a very, very different place, not only just in the layout, but also in the kit and the culture that has been developed over that time. It has meant that, I've been very lucky being in a business that has kept in front of technology every step of the way, not just from a print perspective and an enclosing perspective, but also from an IT and an infrastructure perspective as well as being, engaging in that digital journey.
Excellent. I think you even joined Paragon. You mentioned to me once as a planner, and you've worked your way up. Is that something that Paragon really focus on, a career development for your people?
Very much so. We very much encourage people and operators who work on the shop floor to progress through Paragon. Even this week, we've got two people actually from the shop floor joining our quality department. And certainly they, we've had a lot of operators join our client services departments as well. So very much we would always try to promote from within to give people that opportunity to see that there is progression within Paragon. And yeah, you're right. I started life as a planner 25 years ago and then got offered the role of site director just over 4 years ago. And so, yeah, very much for me, Paragon is about a journey, and I've grown with the business.
Excellent, yeah. And obviously you are a champion of print, so Paragon is a phenomenal size business now in the UK and growing every time. So I'm sure one of the reasons what keeps you on your toes is that your daily life changes from 1 minute to the next, and you have to sort of keep up with that. And I'm sure your workload is phenomenal. Is there anything you can share with the audience before we make a start today around, personal goals or successes? Where is it that you want to be? Are you going to be still there in Paragon in another 25 years, Sue?
Me, yes. Well, I might be a bit old in 25 years time to still be in Paragon. But yeah, I think
you are younger.
I think you're right. I think that the fact that Paragon does grow at such a rate. For me, it's about meeting new people. It's about the new ideas that those people can bring to the party, as well as developing the people here. So in my time here, I've seen an awful lot of people develop in their careers, and we very much encourage that as a business.
One of the things we were going to talk about, I think, a little bit, Sue, was in terms of your customer base. You are a huge organisation now, as we mentioned at the beginning. A lot of customers that come to you, how do you reassure those customers that they get the same level of attention and care, whether they're asking you to print 100 letters or 100 million letters if you ever got one that big, I don't know. But, how would you reassure them that they're all looked after in the same way?
I mean, everybody's so from a client experience point of view, the way that all of the teams are structured is that every client has that same level of support. So we have for example client services managers, junior account managers, and client services execs. The number of those within a team will change depending on the demands of the client, but the structure is the same for all of our clients, whether they're small or whether they are large. So some of the larger ones may have more than one account exec or more than one account manager, but certainly we make sure that they're all supported in exactly the same way. And we need to make sure, and we also make sure that they have the resources there depending on their demands. Small clients don't always mean to say that they have less demand from a client services point of view, in the fact that they may do a lot more change than some of the larger organisations, which may do that change themselves in-house. Whereas some of the smaller, clients, we do that change for them. So we really, really base it not necessarily on the size of the client, but on what their requirements are.
Yeah, no, that's really good. I'm guessing there's probably even some clients out there, Sue, that may deal with each one of your sites individually rather than as a group. So I don't know whether you get that situation where you might have a customer that contacts Dagenham 1 minute and then Bristol next, and I don't know, does that happen at all, or
what we do is we have what we call client relationship directors, and they make sure that all of that is joined up for our clients. So that if you have multiple touch points within Paragon, that is all joined up in one overview, so that we do have somebody who looks after a client from a holistic perspective across all of those sites. So you haven't got those individual touch points. If a client wants them, they can have individual across, but we still have that overarching view of that client. And we can also offer that we just have one team, and that team will then interact with the different Paragon sites. So it depends on our client requirements. We can fit and be very agile in the way that we interact with them, depending on how their organisation works and how their organisation needs to fit with Paragon.
No, that is really good advice, and I guess that's what my role is, I think, in Ricoh a little bit. It is difficult because otherwise, when you're a large business, you can all of a sudden speak to customers almost in 5 different meetings and 5 different ideas, and if they don't appear joined up, you've got a mixed message that you're trying to give your customers. The same way as a supplier coming into you, you're trying to do some work with me at the moment in Ricoh around how do I get help navigating your very large business? So when I come in and talk to you, Sue, I don't want to just talk about what happens on your site. It needs to be, is this best practice that we can do in all the other sites? And you're trying to help me navigate that yourself. I'm guessing there's other suppliers out there that probably have the same thoughts with you, Sue. Is it something you're working on as a business to try and help your suppliers have the bigger picture?
Yeah, and I'm, as we've grown, we've now formed teams where the site directors get together, and it's more about us working as a team with our suppliers to make sure that we're also getting the best out of you. And for us to be able to do that, we need to be able to having more of a joint sort of quarterly meetings with our suppliers, as opposed to having individual meetings at the sites, because then, like you said, it'll help you be able to navigate around our business, but also help our business get the most out of our suppliers.
Absolutely. It's really important that if you launch an initiative in one site and that site gets a benefit from it, that information is shared with all the other sites who are perhaps doing similar work. And I think, it's difficult with a large business like Paragon to get that message out, and we're taking steps to make sure that you do that, and it's really important, and it's actually really refreshing for me, because it's making me feel like I'm contributing to your success as well in Ricoh, and that's really nice, and it's rewarding, and it also means that we're not working on things that perhaps aren't important to you as a business, that might be important to you today, which we need to work on, but we need to make sure we're constantly aware of your strategy and where you're going in the future. I guess we talked a bit about clients there, Sue. there's a lot of buzzwords going around about digital transformation. You know, there's a lot of articles you read around print or volumes declining. You've talked a lot about how you're interacting with customers on the digital transformation journey, how different methods of communication complement each other, and even how you had to evolve through the sort of white paper sort of factory experience to try and help your clients become more efficient themselves and help them save money. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, so, Paragon has always been looking at how our clients communicate with their customers. And, yes, we came from a traditional print background, but we are now, have a lot of different digital services that we can offer our clients. And if we can have that joined up approach of digital and paper, then we believe that is the best customer journey, in the fact that you can link the two together and get the best results from linking both digital and paper, depending on where in the journey and also where our clients' customer preferences are. There will be some people who want the whole digital experience, and that is something that Paragon can offer. There are some who want the whole paper experience, and again, that's something that Paragon can offer. But what Paragon can also offer is a combination of the two, and being able to link those two pieces together, which I think is a very important part of communicating in this day and age.
Yeah, absolutely. Was that journey hard, Sue, I guess, because when you start up a business and quite a lot of the focus is in production and print and actually getting something physical out the door, when you started speaking to customers, I guess, about digital and offering that as a service to them, was that an easy conversion, or did they sort of say, well, you're good at print? How do you sort of move that on, and show it?
I think that, there were some clients who were doing part of the digital journey themselves, but I think there is so much more we can offer if we have that combined service. So we can link that communication together, we can do the journey together, we can show them how you can link that communication, and with all of the sort of intelligence sort of MI and that information that we can gather for our clients, then the combined service is better than the two services done in individual areas.
Yeah, absolutely. Just before we move on, in terms of the conversation, because there's a few things I want to talk about in terms of, again, back to the site standardization piece. You're a company that has various technologies, solutions, different print methodology and finishing methodology. How do you sort of, if you want to move work around, how have you had to approach standardization, maybe in terms of color management, and making sure that if you did print it in two different locations, it looked and felt the same?
Yeah, so we have some colour management specialists who we work with across the different sites, and we make sure that the colour profiles, even though they may be set up differently on different pieces of kit, overall, when you actually print the output, it looks identical. And so that's something that's been very important to us, and it means that we have had to have people who are very, very specialist in colour to be able to achieve that goal, so that we can move work across the different sites, across the different platforms, and still, when you look at the output, it would be very difficult to be able to pinpoint which Paragon site that was produced at.
I get very impressed at the moment, Sue, with getting newsletters from Paragon around a lot of focus on your sustainability practices and environmental awareness initiatives. And I also know that you're doing a big project around carbon net zero. You've contacted a lot of your suppliers with questionnaires around their practices to make sure you're working with ethical suppliers. It's a really big drive. Why is it important for Paragon that you do this, Sue?
So I think carbon net zero is something that has become a very large topic across the world, not just in the UK, but it's actually a global topic. And it's very important to our clients as well as to us as a company. And so very much, we want to go on the journey with our clients and be able to, achieve carbon net zero. So Jeremy has set, you know, a quite aggressive target for us in carbon net zero by 2030. Whereas I know, you know, there are other organisations that have set it at 2050. But, you know, 2050 is a long time away, and we need to make sure that 2030 is a focus to make sure we start changing things now. Because if you don't start changing things now, 2050 will come along very quickly, and all of a sudden you're not at the goal where you wanted it to be. So 2030 is our goal. We did an initial look at our carbon output, and actually 90% of it is with our suppliers. So even though we're very much focused on, you know, Paragon as a company, you know, becoming carbon net zero, actually, when you look at the journey of the products that we produce, it's our suppliers that actually equate to 90% of the carbon, which is why, as you said, Sam, we're sending out lots of surveys. We're engaging with our clients to make sure that we are, you know, being able to tackle and reduce that carbon net zero, even if it isn't in our control. We are, you know, pushing our suppliers and asking them what they're doing. From a client perspective, we have created a carbon calculator, which actually enables our clients to be able to see the carbon journey of the products that we produce across Paragon, which again will help our customers in being able to drive their carbon net zero goals.
Yeah. Do you think that's is that being asked for in a lot of bids for work and stuff from your clients? I mean, if for example you weren't doing that, Sue, would you be? You could be almost be factored out of even winning a bid, couldn't you? Now, even against price, if you hadn't got that in place, you know, you could almost be factored out. It's that important.
It is that important. It's like the accreditations. So it's almost like an accreditation. You have to have, you know, carbon net zero front and foremost in your organisation. Like you said, to make sure that you are part of that RFP process. I mean, you know, it doesn't just include the, you know, carbon net zero. It's about the people. It's about the diversity. It's about inclusion. You know, so there's a lot of things we're doing on the people side as well as on the carbon net zero side as well. So Paragon launched a reverse mentoring scheme at the beginning of the year. And that's just come to a conclusion now, the first round of that, and that has been inspiring. It absolutely, I was lucky enough to be part of that and to be mentored, and no, it really was inspiring, and it certainly started a lot of initiatives for me to be able to drive in the Bristol and Tewkesbury sites and CMCS as well, to be able to make sure that we are, you know, we are inclusive, an inclusive company, and the way we communicate doesn't, you know, make anybody feel out of place. So yeah, it was a very good initiative.
I know. Actually, one of the things I really like, Sue, was I think we mentioned earlier on about employees coming forward with ideas. I think you one of your prizes, if somebody had a really good idea, was to plant a tree, and I thought that was absolutely lovely, really good.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, we've got an environmental initiative at the moment on our ideas scheme, and like you said, the winner of that will be given a tree if they have a garden, or a plant if they don't have a garden, but something green to be able to you know, signify that it was an environmental idea that made them have that tree.
No, I think that's a really lovely idea as well. So
can I just add, there's the other thing that we do as well from a sort of cultural point of view is that we don't just have so we have a well-being champion actually for the whole of Paragon UK, to make sure that those well-being initiatives are not driven at a site level, but driven at a Paragon group level.
No, that's really good, Sue, because obviously today there's quite a lot of challenges out there with hiring labour, you know, getting skilled workforces. And of course, when you get people coming into the business, there's a lot of work to do in terms of training and developing them. So the more you focus on things like employee well-being and caring, get their ideas, how you make them feel part of the family and loved, it means you get to keep those employees and develop them over time. So it's really important that other companies think about how they treat their employees, because it's them that are going to get your work out on time, them that are going to get your quality right every time as well, and have passion and caring about it.
Yeah, and it's very much, certainly over the last 3 months, we've invested heavily, particularly at the Bristol site, in mental health awareness training. So we did it about 3 years ago, but obviously the pandemic has happened, and since then there are a lot of different things that people need to be aware of versus where we were as a country prior to the pandemic. And also we've taken it down another level of management, so we've gone down to a supervisor level instead of just at that management level, because it's the supervisors who could be, you know, dealing with the people face to face every day, whereas the managers may not actually see the people every day but just sort of dip in and out. So it's very important that we're seeing people and interacting people and making sure that we're looking to make sure that those people and any changes in behaviour, we can help them and support them in the best way we can.
Excellent, excellent. I bet you get some good feedback from your employees on that now as well. So, you know, when you've got a big organisation with that many employees, it's very similar in Ricoh. You need to make sure that everybody feels part of something there, so that they are, you know, coached and nurtured and brought along. Otherwise it can be, sometimes you get that sort of feeling of being sort of lost in a crowd a little bit sometimes. And, you know, if I have a good day and make a difference today, does it really matter in the grand scheme of things? So making sure that you're constantly reminding your employees of what you're doing means that you've got that constant feedback loop, and then making them feel like that actually everything that they do is a success to the business.
Yeah, very much so. And that comes really from Jeremy as well, in the fact that he gives regular updates and regular communications, which are displayed across all of the Paragon sites across the UK. So we have that consistent message, and people know where Paragon is going as a business, you know, across the whole sites, and that's accessible to operators, you know, all the way throughout the organisation.
Excellent. No, that's really good. Definitely. I know when we've met recently, Sue, I mean, we talked a bit about you've got like a shout it out scheme, I think it was called, wasn't it, that you mentioned when we last spoke, which I really liked, because, you know, just like we've just said there, your employees on the ground are there seeing all of the challenges and difficulties every day, and sometimes, you know, coming to work and they may have been told to do something one way, you know, when they first joined, and that could have been 5 years ago, and they've carried on doing it that way, where actually there possibly is a better way of doing things, or, you know, more efficient way of doing things that may make both their lives easier and you more effective and efficient. So you have a scheme now where people can actually write into you and give ideas, and that's rewarded as well. So it's not just a, you know, well done, it's rewarded.
Yeah, and to me, the Shouted Out scheme is very much, I mean, it's been running now for over 3 years, and we still get regular communications from our staff. And the key driver to that has been making sure that we feed back, because, you know, historically, ideas schemes run for about 6 weeks. You have a load of ideas and then it just fizzles out. This has continued because we have somebody responsible as part of our continuous improvement programme to make sure that every single idea, suggestion that is brought via the Shouted Out scheme is actually talked to about their idea, whether it can be implemented or not. It's very important to give that feedback, and because people then know that they're being listened to and know that any ideas are being taken, you know, seriously, they're being assessed, and making sure that we give that feedback. So yeah, that has been a great success story for us, in the fact that we've been able to keep an idea scheme going for that length of time and still have regular feedback from our employees.
Excellent. No, and that's really good advice for anybody else listening to this, Sue, as well, because, you know, people are trying to constantly think of ways that they can make improvements, you know, so having little schemes and initiatives like that with your employees makes a world of difference. And I don't always see it everywhere I go, to be honest with you. You know, there's a lot of stuff that you can see when in factories where people make suggestions and you know, and sometimes it just doesn't go anywhere, and then people get frustrated and demotivated, so won't speak up again. So it has to be a constant reward and thank you and praise, otherwise it just becomes a list of notes. I mean, a lot of this as well, I mean, nearly every company I talk to at the moment, more for less is a really big theme. And that's obviously partly of that is to do with the environmental impact. You know, we all need to stop using so much energy and reducing paper waste, etc. But also it's because of costs as well. So, you know, there's rising costs of energy and paper are absolutely rooftop right now, and are probably going to carry on as well for the foreseeable. How are you managing that as a business when, you've won work with clients, and those prices now are, difficult to keep up with.
Yeah, they are. And I mean, when we've looked at it, I've been in this industry 25 years, never seen a 12 months like it ever. Certainly, with paper, and also with energy. You're right. It's sort of like we're in new territory as far as the rising costs in those areas. And we're not afraid to be able to say to our clients about moving to digital, about being able to let us take them on that journey to digital. But we're also, from a production point of view, looking to see how we can reduce paper. Paper waste being another big initiative that we're running. We're always looking at paper waste. We're always looking at ways reducing that. We've had CI projects running on that over a number of years. But just because you've run it once, you shouldn't stop there. So it's all about making sure, continuous improvement is just that. Just because you've done it once doesn't mean to say you don't continue that process. So, paper very much is, we're looking to see, could we produce it on a narrower web? Could we utilize the paper better in the information that's being put on there for our clients? So I think it's a combination of sort of looking at production initiatives, and also looking at is the digital journey the right thing for that particular client and that particular client's client base.
Absolutely. I know you've reached out to me personally as well in the past around, have we got the right practices and processes? So you're even sort of going out to get advice from your suppliers as well to make sure that you've optimized. Are we powering down at the right times? How do we reduce the amount of energy we're using? Are our operators doing the right cleaning regime so you don't waste too much ink, for example, and waste quality? So you're not having to reprint files very often because you're getting the quality right as best as you can first time to get that out there. And I think there's a huge amount of work being done on that. And I must admit, every idea that we've provided with you, it was almost within days or weeks that everything was looked at very quickly to go, right, we'll do that. And it was really good to see how quickly you wanted to embrace that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because like you said, the energy consumption is quite a significant part of our cost base. So, everything we can do to minimise the usage of that is very much high on our agenda.
I'm so pleased that Sue came to the podcast today. The discussion was really open and inspiring. I find it amazing that organisations like Paragon, with their size and scale, are still so agile and trying to find ways to constantly improve the way that they look after their customers and have such a huge focus on their engagement with their employees and transforming their culture. It was a fascinating talk today, and I'm really pleased that we were able to tell their story. Coming up next, though, is an exciting discussion with Bloom and Wild. Thank you for listening. I hope you join next.
Ricoh.